There are 5 self-defense moves that every woman should know in order to protect herself from sexual harassment or worse, assault. Now, these are the top 5 scenarios that most women face in their day-to-day lives. So we're going to cover those, what are those scenarios, and how you can protect yourself from it. And finally, I'm going to leave you with a very important what you can do to not even have any of these attacks happen to you. We're going to talk about that at the very end of the video. So let's get started. First one is inappropriate touching. This is extremely common. Most women, over 90% of women, actually have had some form of sexual harassment experience, and that includes both verbal but also physical. And in a lot of cases, physical is just touching. So if you're at a corporate kitchen and there's coworkers standing around you, this is when your coworker is standing a little too close to you and you wonder, oh, maybe that was an accident. And then you scoot a little over and then that person gets closer. This happened to me. This is actually a real life example I'm giving you. When I was at work, at my work, in a work kitchen, whole bunch of people were gathered. I was leaning against a sink, and I remember another coworker came and stood right next to me, shoulder to shoulder. And I thought, oh, I'll just scoot over. And then, we talk, this person talked, and then when he leaned back, leaning against me again. And so in these cases, we tend to doubt ourselves. We tend to wonder, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe this is not really happening. Maybe it's just a mistake. That's a problem. We shouldn't doubt ourselves. If it feels uncomfortable, it is uncomfortable. So we need to learn the self-defense for what to do against inappropriate touching. Now, when I say this, most of us have a very traditional concept of self-defense. We think that means I need to learn how to punch and kick and gouge my coworker's eyes. But guess what? You're not going to do that. There's no point in learning those techniques because you're not going to do that to your coworker. The real self-defense in this case would be standing up and speaking up for yourself. Saying, hey, don't do this. Like, hey, can you please give me space? This is really uncomfortable. You don't have to be touching me, do you? And here's the tricky thing. If this person says, oh, I apologize, and moves away, okay, maybe it was a mistake or maybe it was deliberate, but they just decided to back down. But if they say, if they make excuses and say, I didn't even realize, you don't have to overreact, or if they make you feel guilty, then know for sure, 100%, that person is a predator. That is why they're making you feel guilty, as opposed to accepting their mistake and backing out. So now what happens is it's easier to say, right? Oh, stand up for yourself. Speak up for yourself. Say, don't touch me. You understand that. You say, yes, Fauzi, I get it. Absolutely, that's the way to do it. Are you going to do it, though? This is where we get hung up. We're not going to do it. Why? Because we have low self-worth, low self-esteem. We don't trust ourselves. And so we have a very hard time in that situation saying what we know we should say and doing what we know we should do, what the right thing to do is. So there is a whole self-defense training on building yourself inside, from the inside, building that confidence, self-worth, self-esteem on the inside, and then showing up confidently in your body language, in your voice, in your facial expressions, in the way you position your body, in the format you say it, effective communication. So all these things, body language, facial expressions, voice, your positioning of your body, your facial expressions, the choice of words. And then, of course, besides these, this is just reactive. You will also do things that I'm going to talk about at the end to even prevent such a situation from happening in the first place. So all these elements, besides the prevention, actually is a self-defense training on how to react to someone inappropriately touching you. Now, this inappropriate touching can be something much worse, where you're at a bar or at a party where somebody got too drunk and this person is just throwing themselves on you. They say, oh, hi, let me give you a hug. And their whole body is leaning on top of you for whatever reason. Now, there's that scenario where you still use your body, your self-defense stance, your position, you put your hands out so that you can catch this weight with your whole body without actually having this person come and touch you or grab you or do anything like that. So there's that training as well, all the way from using your body language and voice to physically blocking that space. Okay, so yes, there is self-defense training on this. Don't think, oh, inappropriate touching, well, there's no self-defense to that. What are you going to do about that? Just say stop. No, it's a lot more than that. The next common thing that most women face, being followed or stalked. This is very common. A lot of women have been followed or stalked. And under those same statistics, over 80% of women have experienced this at least once in their lifetime. That's scary, just thinking about that. So there are two different concepts here. Being followed is when you're on the street, when you're up and about, and someone's actually behind you following you. This could be a stranger or someone you know. When I say know, loosely acquainted is what I mean. Maybe you see this person at the bus stop all the time, and you haven't really talked to this person, but now this person's following you. Or it's a stranger. In most cases, it's somebody you don't know. It's just a stranger who's following you. Stalking, on the other hand, is not necessarily them being directly behind you and following you wherever you're going, in physically or digitally following you, but it's more, yes, right, not physical, but it's more digital, and it's not a necessary a follow per se. I'm going where you're going, but they know your habits and patterns, and they know when you're alone, and they know when to find you. They know your secrets. That's the stalker behavior. That's usually, yes, it can happen by strangers. That's rare. That usually is people you know, people you're closely acquainted with, people you trusted to bring into your life. It could be a friend, but in most cases, it's a romantic relationship. So it's two different scenarios here that I bundled together. In case of being followed, also a whole series of self-defense, things you can do. The first part is going to be how to interact with that person. There's a whole series. I'm going to put the link below on what you can do. It's a 30-minute video on what you can do if you're being followed, all the steps you can take. And then when it gets physical, also knowing what to do, what your options are. And then, yes, this also involves body, voice, situational awareness, self-awareness. Involves a lot of things when you're being followed on the street. Being stalked, it's the same kind of thing. Learning privacy, learning what things to keep secure. I mean, a lot of us don't even know that our photos that we're putting up on TikTok and Instagram, people can just find the location off of these photos of where we are. And if we're putting it through our house, if we're uploading these videos while we're at home, people can say, oh, she lives here. Right? And there's another video on TikTok safety, how to disable location and be safe on TikTok. There's another video on that. So I'll put that in the link below as well. So these are steps you can take, and this is part of self-defense. Even though we're so used to thinking about self-defense as kick, kick, punch, punch, kick, kick, punch, punch, right? This is real self-defense. Learning privacy, learning all the strategic steps, situational awareness. People always talk about situational awareness. Have situational awareness. No matter what training you take, martial arts or self-defense, they'll always say situational awareness. They'll even say, we teach situational awareness. And what do they teach? Have situational awareness. That's what we teach. I've had this happen so many times. Just last week, I had a conversation with a person. It was a self-defense, self-defense instructor who used to be perhaps in some kind of security capacity before and trains professional women now. And I remember him saying that, I teach them to have situational awareness. And so I asked, okay, so what do you teach in situational awareness? Like, don't be on your phone all the time. Keep your chin up and look around. That's it. You just described that in 5 seconds. Just saying that is not going to make people safe. It's doing eye exercises, having peripheral vision, sideways, upwards, downwards, being able to read other people's body language. One of my mentors and teachers, I will still never forget this. Oh my goodness. He can park his car in a parking lot spot, and then by that time knows colors of 6 cars on his left and 6 cars on his right. Now that is situational awareness, which you need to train for. Train your eyes, train your memory, so you can train for these things. That's real self-defense. The third most common scenario that a lot of women face, and this is very common for teenage girls, college girls, or early young adults. Persuasion by your boyfriend or a romantic partner, where this person is either trying to grab you and drag you, hey, let's get out of this party, and then you want to get out of that grip, or it's trying to dominate you physically, sexual assault, rape. That's what we're talking about. So that entire level, all of that is physical dominance. And this is common, And in this situation, in this scenario, I'm not talking about choking or somebody trying to punch, not domestic violence per se, things that we think are normal. It's strange. Oftentimes, we think that if someone is pulling us and say, hey, Fazia, let's get out of here, we think it's normal because, well, they're in a hurry. They got to go. It's okay. Well, it's not okay. It's not okay for anybody to touch you, to pull you. It's different if they're kids and they don't know what they're doing and they're, 6, 7-year-old running around pushing or pulling you. That's a different scenario. But an adult shouldn't try to physically grab you and move you. If that's the situation, if that's happening, don't make excuses. You got to get out of there. But once again, you shouldn't have gotten into it in the first place. And you wouldn't have if you did all the preventative side of things. And we're going to talk about that. So in these cases, yes, if somebody's grabbing you, that self-defense, forget about the prevention for now. The self-defense would be how to get out of that grip. If you're being pulled back, how to find a stance so you don't fall, so you're grounded, so you're unmovable like a mountain, so that when they pull you, you're not moving, you're not going anywhere because you're so strong in where you are. And then you're able to get out of that grip. And then the other extreme of this is when they're trying to get on top of you without your consent, especially when you're saying no. Unfortunately, a lot of sexual assault scenarios, women don't even realize it's happening. And when it's happening, they want to say no, but they feel bad. I know it sounds strange. It'll sound strange to you if you've never experienced this. But those who have experienced know exactly what I'm talking about. You trusted this person, and this person says, please, let's do it. It's okay. Hey, don't be a party pooper. It'll be so fun. Or in some cases, I've heard that this friend, not even a romantic partner, going through a really hard time, crying and says, I just need you. I just want you. You make me feel so happy and comfortable and relaxed, and then just takes advantage of this other person's body. So in that case, the most important thing is to make sure that never even happens. Of course, that is the real self-defense. In this case, though, when it comes to physically defending yourself and getting out of that scenario, learning how to hold yourself when you're being pushed back. You're being pushed back probably on either a couch or a bed. So working on your couch and your bed and seeing how much space do you have? How can you lift your legs up, hips? Can you put a foot down? All of those. Going to a dojo, learning that on a mat doesn't really work. You're not training this on a mat. You don't have as much space as a mat does. Mat is a lot harder. Your bed is going to be a lot softer. And there's a lot more going on. Now it's darker, perhaps, because it's going to be later at night. Maybe there's a door you need to get out of. So there's all those elements of the softness, the space, where my feet can be positioned, how I can get out. If I'm trying to go towards the door, how can I make sure I can open a door and keep this person away? That's also part of your self-defense training. The fourth one is protecting someone else. This is a very common, unfortunately common scenario that happens where your friend is in a domestic violence situation. Husband, romantic partner, or it could be whoever they know, a parent, sibling even, trying to beat them up. Could be even a stranger. In many cases, they're not strangers. Domestic violence is usually, we think that, a stranger will come and kick me, punch me, attack me. That's rare. In most scenarios, when women are physically hit, it's by people they know. So prevention is important. Don't let these people in your life. So we're going to talk about those prevention strategies, how to make sure that these people don't even come into your life. But let's say they have entered into your life and now you're seeing that happening. Bystander witness. Okay, so there's a whole section on bystander intervention. And there's going to be a link to that below as well. What can you do? Different states have different laws. And we're talking about just in this country, in the United States of America. So that's complicated. But there are trainings on what you can do to protect this other person. So you go from behind. Now, when you're approaching an attacker who's attacking somebody else and you're approaching that attacker from behind, everything that you do is different than if you're face-to-face. Most trainings that you learn are face-to-face. What do you do? Well, what about from behind? How can you go from behind, do a rear naked choke? You can hit the bend of the knee, get them to go down, pull them back, do some ground defense type work. So there's a lot of steps you can take to make sure that you can help a second person. It's a very, very common scenario, unfortunately heard too many times, where somebody has witnessed this and they didn't know what to do. Of course, a very important part of this, the very first part of this training would be to call 911. So training in this is extremely important. And the final scenario I want to talk about today is building confidence and trust in yourself. So we're talking about the 5 self-defense moves every woman should know. And we've talked about all the scenarios so far. This 5th one is not necessarily a scenario, but it's just a self-defense move that every woman should know, which is, how do you build your confidence and how do you build this trust in yourself? It sounds strange, right? When you look at this, like, what does that have to do with self-defense? Isn't self-defense when you're attacking somebody or when you're trying to physically defend yourself from somebody? Yes. So think about that scenario. Yes, a lot of this we're going to talk about applies in prevention. So that's important. If you do these things, you're able to prevent these people from coming into your life. This also applies in actively trying to defend yourself verbally, psychologically. That's also a defense. We always think of self-defense as being physical. Honestly, if you think about it, most scenarios, bullying, workplace harassment, these start psychologically. Something is said, or maybe not even said, it's not even verbal. There's a dynamic that forces you and there's pressure and nothing is actually being said per se. Bullying is the same thing. A group of people in the class are just gathering, just leaving you out. It's psychological. So if you have to defend yourself from these scenarios, which starts psychologically, well, how are you going to defend it? You cannot physically defend against a psychological scenario. If you throw the first kick or punch, that's assault. That's not defense. So psychological defense is usually in terms of reacting to that scenario. And yes, maybe in case of a verbal scenario, you'll react to it verbally. You'll say something and step out and move away. But regardless of whether there is something to be said or not, the all-encompassing factor here is that sense of confidence and trust in yourself. That is your defense in those scenarios. When that's happening, instead of feeling bad that this group of people are gathering, my classmates, and I'm all alone, you say, great, those are not the people I want to associate with. Fantastic, I already know these. Right? That sense of confidence and believing that you're doing the right thing. You didn't do anything wrong. That is a defense against that. And when they realize you don't care, people won't do things that don't have an effect. They'll stop doing things that just don't have an effect. They might do it once or twice and they say, if it doesn't bother Fawzia, it's no fun. We'll go pick on somebody else. So this is a form of both prevention and defense as well. Okay, so now here we are. I've said this so many times in every single one of these scenarios. I talked about how do you prevent these situations from happening to you in the first place. It's so important. Prevention is better than cure. If you have to fight, it's too late. Preventing these people from entering our lives, these attackers, these predators, and preventing these scenarios from happening, from these people actually grabbing us, pushing us, pulling us, forcing us. Preventing this is where real self-defense is. So how do we prevent this from happening? There are many, many, many ways of doing it. There's a sequence of steps, but I'm only going to share the top 3 most important ones that you can just get started with. The first 3, not necessarily the top 3, but the first 3 things you can do. Body language. Yes, I have mentioned this already several times. The external confidence. If I show up this way, or if I sit this way, what do I look like? But if I now sit this way, what do I look like? Now, body language includes facial expressions, of course. So you can tell with everything put together, this is very different than this. Okay, I'm not an actor, but you get it. But it feels very different, looks very different. So external confidence, how people perceive you, prey-predator relationship has that element to it. If you look strong, you will not look like a prey. And of course, I want to say this too. Sometimes on social media, I get this comment like, oh, so you think that when women are attacked and it's women's fault? No, it's not. It's never the victim's fault. It's never the victim's fault. In an ideal world, we wouldn't even have to learn any of these things. I can sit however I want. I can dress however I want. I can be however I want. I can speak however I want. And people will treat me with respect and integrity. And I'll be judged by my character and the quality of work I bring at work. That's the ideal scenario. And in another ideal world, we wouldn't be teaching women. We'd be teaching the aggressors, the predators, the attackers. I mean, sure, they could be both men and women, but we wouldn't be teaching the victims on what to do. We'd be teaching the perpetrators, helping them psychologically, mentally get healthy so that they don't attack other people. We're not there yet. Maybe one day we can start that process. But since we're not there and we have to teach the victims to make sure that they don't become victims, we need to teach women on how to not become victims. This is what you got to do. So I'm not saying if you don't do this, it's your fault, that if you're attacked, then that's your fault. No, it's not. I'm just saying these things are going to make you strong. And people are not going to pick on you. Second thing, voice. Yes, I've mentioned this before too. Now, if I'm talking like this, if I'm talking softly and maybe I have a high pitch and maybe I have a soft voice and maybe I'm talking really slowly or maybe I'm talking really, really fast because I want to cut through this and I'm not really sure about myself. What is the impression you have? Very different. So there is a person on YouTube, really famous, I think Vin Zhang is his name. I'm going to put that link below as well. Teaches communication and how to communicate confidently and several steps and strategies on how to emphasize and how to have a certain voice and volume and projection and how to tell stories. And of course, using your hands as facial expressions, voice, everything goes as part of that. So you can learn these strategies. And once again, with the body language, same thing, external confidence. When people see you talk that way over the phone on the bus stop, they'll say, that person doesn't look like she's going to take crap from me. That person's probably going to yell, scream, kick. So, no, thank you. Same thing with coworkers. When they hear you speak, they can tell the level of confidence along with the body language, facial expressions, everything. They'll say, that person expresses herself. And expression is both voice, body, facial expressions, right? Expresses herself very strongly. It doesn't seem like a person who can be intimidated or pushed or bullied. Very important to develop these strategies and these tactics. Implement these as part of your self-defense, preventative self-defense training. And the most important one, which I left by the very end, which is developing inner confidence, your inner self-worth, self-esteem, that trust in yourself we talked about earlier, that confidence in myself. Showing up strong externally, yes, it absolutely works. And the reason I put them first is that that's the easiest to implement. It's the easiest to implement. Fake it till you make it, right? So that saying just means that, oh yeah, show up strong even if you don't feel that way. Sure, to some extent that will work. But over time, it's not sustainable. Because if that same predator is seeing you over and over again, they'll start noticing cracks in that, oh, this person is just pretending to be strong. Let me try this and that. Oh yeah, see? Person's not actually strong. So because they'll say certain things and they'll see that you're starting to guess, you're starting to doubt, second guess yourself. Okay, so the best way to become strong and powerful and impenetrable by attackers and predators is to develop that inner strength in your mind. Psychologically, you want to feel strong. You want to overcome those traumas, those challenges, those ideas that people have put in your head since you were really young that you're not worth it. And just break free from that and just feel powerful. Know that you're absolutely worth it. You deserve to be here. You deserve to sit at this table. You deserve to have an opinion. And yes, you can do that through mental exercises, psychological exercises. That's your most important defense. Now, that takes time to build, and that's why you start with the easy aspect. Start seeing how that's making a change, positive change in your life, which will make it easier for you to then do the longer process, which is to stick through it. So think of it as, you have some infection, or let's say you have a lot of acne on your face, and you say, oh, I have a lot of acne. I want to clear this up. It's itching, it's bursting, it's bothering me. So yes, you will go to maybe a skin doctor or someone and get something topical to apply, face wash, or maybe it's, a hydrocortisone type cream, right? They always give some steroids to apply on our face, any skin issue. So you'll do something physical like that, sure, temporarily, because that's not fixing the root cause of the problem. So you're going to then also go to maybe a nutritionist or a naturopathic doctor and find out what is happening inside your body that's causing these to come out. Hormonal changes, digestive issues, what else is there? So then You do that. You get the blood test done, you get the whatever else test, sleep tests or hormone tests or whatever tests you need to get done to find what's going on inside your body, and then get that protocol on nutrition, herbs, supplements, Ayurveda, whatever it is, and start taking those. And that takes a few weeks to a few months before it takes effect. So you do that long-term strategy process to heal from the inside out. But while that's taking its own sweet time, you already started working on the outside and helping that situation. Yes? So that's what I mean. That outside topical is your body language, your voice, your facial expressions, the way you show up. And the inner work is this, the self-worth, the self-esteem, which takes a little bit of time. So this is my suggestion for everyone out there. If you're facing any of these issues, learn self-defense the right way. Find someone who can teach you, who can show you, who can walk through with you how to build yourself up from the inside out. If you would like to learn more on what we teach and our resources, go ahead and click on the link below, and you can watch your free 1-hour masterclass training and get started that way. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe.